Welcome back. We're here to cover the Divine Masculine read. For those of you that don't know, if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, jump online. And for those of you that don't know who I am, a very warm welcome. I'm a psychic medium, clairvoyant, and intuitive astrologer, as well as I do coach, as well as coach the Twin Flame Collective. If you do want any information, all our links are directly below. And without further ado, we're going to look at the reason why I see the Divine Masculine really going through this transformative stage, that it's not personal, it's physical, and it's a very strange read. Let's get into it. Now, as I said, I was finding this read really strange, and I tend to pull the cards, sit with them for a few minutes, and get tucked into it. And I do notice from the crowning energy, we do have the temptation card. And, this from a personal level, I do feel this individual this week is having some revelations, and this is to do with relationships, which doesn't really surprise me, especially in the context of moving away from Mercury retrograde, having these revelations, getting to the root cause of things. And we do see this coming up for the Divine Masculine. And there can be some shadow that directly they're facing, especially in the context of their life connected to love, connected to previous connections, what they're linking in with and what they're needing to disconnect from. And I really do feel, especially from observing this reading just from afar already, that they're going really deep. And this can be shame, this can be revelations of who's not for them, and also their patterns and habits. But what's really tempting them at the moment, and I do feel there is this shadow, it's almost like this haunting. And I was always seeing with the North Node in Pisces that from a psychological point of view, we were needing to come into a sense of acceptance. And I did notice this when we had Chiron in Pisces. Chiron at the moment is in the house of Aries. So in the individual energy, these individuals are dealing with this from a very psychological level, the past versus the present, them versus feeling stuck, and whereby they can actually liberate themselves. And we noticed with the temptation card, it is a 9. Well, it's dropping down to a 1. And this is something that we're having to deal with in our shadow energy, so that, and we can feel very, I can't say distorted, disillusioned rather. We can feel disillusioned in the context of it because we're trying to find a map and a way to get out of Dodge. We're trying to go into that true authenticity of who we are collectively. And I feel the Divine Masculine within their masculinity are trying to find it. And the feminine element of things also are bringing up very deep-seated emotions. It could be bitterness, it could be frustration, but huge revelations. So they do know who they want to be, but also the shadow is aiding in a sense to give them some context of the reasons why they have these patterns and habits. I do feel there is a psychological nature to this, more so in the context of absolute sheer frustration of how they keep getting dragged back, and they're not wanting to fall back into karmic patterns. They're not wanting to be dragged back by this. They're feeling it's almost like that toilet paper stuck on the bottom of your shoe when you're trying to shake it off. And I feel all of us collectively can relate to that, especially how we're trying to liberate ourselves out of circumstances, navigate very difficult worlds and the ecosystems within our life. Now, in the first row, we're looking to the most recent past. And, sometimes we move in where angels fear to tread. And I do feel we've all been a culprit of this in the context of life at the minute. We're getting some sense of realism, especially for the Divine Masculine. They're getting a sense of realism here. In the past, it's the Trinity energy, it's the 3, it's the 2's company, 3's the crowd, it's who do I link with, who do I not? And we're seeing this person almost sometimes blindsided by what was in front of them all the time. And maybe they moved away from a circumstance. And I feel this is connected to the Divine Feminine, that they're having to backtrack to gain clarity, to go into hermit mode. And look, sometimes ultimately, especially if you are in communication with these individuals, you may be observing them go through an ascension process, and you're going to have to take a very tactical approach to keep yourself centered as they're actually disconnecting from the cycle. How you do that, I'm going to be developing those tools moving forward into 2026 because I feel all of us collectively are going to need it. But actually navigating it, there's a few things you can do. You can go to the website if you are needing a booking, and that's going to give you some context relating to how to navigate this path moving into 2026. This here for this person, you can see the divine feminine in the background here, and I do feel this is the divine feminine. Although I would say there is also a context of maybe at one point in time they had moved away from the divine feminine into a karmic relationship. They felt quite chastised by the karmic relationship. They still do to a degree. There could be some karmic cords that they're needing to address to close up and tie up in a neat little bow. That doesn't mean to say that they can't have a connection with you, but it might be that there are some difficulties to actually navigate in the context, especially for those of you that are maybe in communication or reunion with this path. Now, when we look to this top row, the whole and heart energy, I feel this has some correlating energy, and it's this emptiness. It's almost like empty victories, empty purpose, but also addressing things. We can't skim over things. We do need to get to the root cause of what is going on here. And I feel for these individuals, they're actually bringing the links together, but they're getting very frustrated by it. I do feel for some of them, they have linked to, they don't have an emotional connection to this, but also they're looking at where the patterns and the habits were so that they can actually use this to their advantage, especially if they know whatever the cycle is, they know how these other energies operate. They can actually use that in a very tactical way to get themselves out of dodge. But their key that they're going to need to address this week is actually having patience. So they could be more, I would say, vocal during this time and moving into action and needing to maybe address something in a very fast manner. The other thing that is bringing them a great deal of intensity is, grief. The grief energy here, how it is directly impacting the divine feminine, how the divine feminine is feeling this vibration, but also with the changes, not necessarily did these things come about in the fashion that they wanted to. And so there is empathy associated to this. There is frustration of the changes that maybe they are needing to do. And it does appear to be that there's lots of areas that are popping off for them, and they're having to really be a little bit like a circus act, juggling these kind of oranges in the air, trying to move parts of their life about. And, the reason I called this is personal, not physical, is because we look at the crowning energy. It literally looks like this person's going into a bad habit, okay? It's like, okay, we have the temptation energy here. We have this person maybe coming through, with a hole in their heart, not addressing it. And yes, this is sometimes how we do fall into the trap of moving into karmic relationships. And I feel, for those of you that are masculine cross-watching, or within our masculine life, moving into another area of life before we've closed out another, it gets messy. Okay, so all of us maybe are dealing with that. And sometimes these cycles that are ending naturally does feel messy and we are unprepared for it. But how we directly can address it is by going bit by bit, piece by piece, and kind of moving those parts around. And, before we know it, we may feel through that process that we're tempted to just, check out and do something else to kind of occupy ourselves or de-stress and deflate ourselves. Exercise is going to be something that is going to be super good for this, as well as resting, letting things go, and actually stepping back from the painting to gain some sense of clarity. And then you're going to be able to move into it with more logic, I would say. because these five energies are quite challenging. Now, ultimately speaking, when we do see the temptation is to change. But I feel this person still is being quite cautious, but feeling that pressure and maybe having to make moves very quickly, which could at times, because we are jumping in the deep end before we've gained all the information, it could make things a little bit messy. Really facing the ugly truth with the circumstance, but again, actually finding what they truly love. Why is this becoming such a frustration? I don't know. It's almost like the roles have flipped here. We look at the top card here, and it's like, and this could be some advice for the divine feminine, especially as a cross watcher. Look at how the individual here is mourning and pining the ghost of girlfriend's past. And as we go to the outcome card, we have the polar opposite. We have the individual really looking forward in their life, and the divine masculine looking in. And I think it's about harmonizing this. And both of them really are, dropping down to a 10. So we're going backwards to go forwards. That doesn't mean we're not having success. We're righting wrongs, we're correcting the path, and we are moving into a higher level of ascension. Now, we're going to go into actually clarifying this and seeing really in the context of this top row, deeper, what is going on and what we need to know. Okay, this temptation energy, please. Can you elaborate further to show us what we need to know? Yeah, there's been a huge wake-up call. It's almost like something has come online for the divine masculine where they're feeling now is the time. And because now is the time, it does feel quite urgent. They're actually having to address things of the past. And another reason, I do feel a lot of them are quite fed up by interruptions of the past coming in to disrupt their future. They are very grateful, I would say, for this lesson. It's not that nothing was for nothing, but they feel that they were pausing for a long time due to healing, and there were some delayed areas maybe they had put on the back burner, and they've got the clarity that now is the time. It's time to go. Now is the time. Okay, this person's going to be brutally honest about what isn't working. And this can be to people, places, and things, any betrayals, any hurts of the past. This is being true to themselves, true to their heart, true to their divine feminine, and true to the individuals that have really shafted them. They do feel at times that their power was taken from them, that they were really attracting people that were quite manipulative. And they don't actually know the reasons why, but they know they're not doing this anymore. So there's a bit of a fight here. I don't think a negative fight. I feel it's like I'm seeing the person actually dealing with it in a physical sense. This is no longer personal. This is physical. Yeah, for some of them, it could be that they're blocking individuals, that they're feeling that wherever this block in the road is, the reason why they're becoming impatient and is forcing their assertive energy is because they're tired of this blockade happening in their life. They're not tolerating it any longer. They know the areas in which they wish to change. They know how this blockade is actually impacting the change, and they're actually using this in a very tactical way. Yeah, they're making a plan. We have reevaluating your priorities, claiming your art, and making a plan where it comes to the beauty energy. And again, I think it's almost like any facade, it's being stripped away. And it's really being peeled back to expose some things. Okay, what's being exposed, please? Okay, part of that. Okay, is that to do with them? Let's have a look. What deck should I use? They want us to dig deeper. They're trying to make things right, but they also do expect that of other people. They're willing to own it, and they feel that they've been in this karmic loop. Initially, they felt this was their karma. You know, easy come, easy go. Now, is this about the karmic, please? Is this about the karmic or the karmic cycle? Okay, this could be this does look like a dispute. They know where they're going. They have no question about that. How they're getting there, not completely sure. Only due to the blockade happening here. There is an assertive energy. There are professionals they're seeking. They're also adhering to how they correct their mistakes. And they do feel that to a degree, this karmic cycle has taught them a lot. And they've felt that the bad luck had actually been part of their karma. Those that have actually addressed any patterns or habits, they're now seeing that this has aided them, and this is the solution, and it could be for some of the problem. Patterns that they're breaking, if they've broken them, this is whereby these individuals, and I feel it's wave one, they're actually ready to care for themselves and to choose themselves and to assert themselves. And I feel it's because of that they're actually focusing on pure love, not just the physical type. This is emotional and physical, not just skin deep. This is where the huge change for them directly has come. Now, if you haven't visited our website or subscribed to Yildiz Readings 5D, we hope to have you. If you do want to see any of the links, they are all directly below. We have bookings, events, vlogs, and email newsletters, as well as our landing page online for Sage Inner Circle Network if you want to see it. If you do want to sign up within that page, it does give you some examples of what we have on offer, as well as the real reason why we have been creating Sage Inner Circle Network for the collective. And that's because as we do move through into 2026, this year enough has been quite heavy. However, we are wrapping up that cycle next year and moving into a new energy. And over the next 3 years, we are going to need that added support. So at Sage Inner Circle Network, our hope is to directly offer you the information, the resources, the support system, as well as the community where we can actually build those better solutions to actually navigate that. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Tell us how this reading resonates and stay tuned for our astrology updates. Take care.